Hey guys, now on today's video we are doing something a little bit different because I'm going to explain why this is probably the most pointless double cab pickup to buy. And we are going to be telling you this because AutoConnect is the only car channel that will guarantee you an alluring motor vehicle experience. I'll be your host, Eric Okabi, Eric with a CK. Remember, you can follow me at a personal level on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And by the way, you can also follow AutoConnect on our social media handles, AutoConnect Kenya, Automotive Excellence on Facebook and Instagram. Now, before we talk about why this is a pointless buy and a very bad way to probably spend your 6 million Kenya shillings, well, let me give you some news. Well, we have worked with Carplicity throughout this year and they have some amazing Christmas deals. So they have some amazing offers on some cars, man. The clearance sale is just crazy because the prices are irresistible. And one thing, if you're buying a car from Carplicity, AutoConnect will guarantee you or will give you another free package, and that package includes free consultation and a free pre-purchase inspection. So that is only if you're buying that car from Carplicity. And if you want to see the crazy offers that Carplicity has on vehicles, imagine they are selling even a Mark X for about 2 million Kenya shillings. That's a great deal. So you can call David. His number is in the description below. Na hata kuonyesha hizo offer zao. Na nimewaambia, if you get a car from Carplicity, AutoConnect is going to give you a free consultation session about the car so that you can be saved from buying cars that are pointless to buy as the vehicle behind me. And secondly, we are going to inspect the car for you and give you a genuine inspection report with regards to the health of that car. Now let's get back to the business of the day. Now, on this episode, we will majorly talk about how you would badly spend your 6 million Kenya shillings by buying this car right here. Yes. And why consulting might actually save you from making such bad decisions. Well, let me start by explaining something. This is a Ford Ranger Wildtrak and it looks good from far, but this Wildtrak is actually far from good. Why am I saying so? Now, the Ford Ranger Wildtrak badge is highly respected globally for having a good-looking, practical double cab that can take you off-road. Well, sometimes when you're buying these cars, you might not look at so many things keenly, and that is why people end up making mistakes such as the one behind me. And why am I saying so? Well, if you're looking, most people who are looking for a double cab, they'll be looking for one that is good off-road, one that has amazing four-wheel drive capabilities, one that is practical, one that has a grant of power. And unfortunately, this is not it. Well, let me show you something. Well, if you look at this vehicle, it has a nudge bar shouting of off-road capability and off-road prowess, and it has the Wildtrak badge. And the Wildtrak badge is so respected in the in the world at large because the Ford Ranger has actually pushed new limits towards going off-road. However, if I was to get a carpet from this vehicle and put it down, in fact, I would like us to inspect what is under the subfloor and try to show you the pointlessness of actually buying a unit like this one, and why when you're buying Ford Rangers or even Hiluxes, because this kind of contraption is also available in the Hilux, it's available in the D-Max, and well, even in the Ford Ranger. So let me take you through this. So if you just take a look at the subframe, now it comes with a steel sump guard, which is a very good thing about this car, because you're not going to be bashed by rocks if you take this car off-road. But can this vehicle really go off-road? Well, the answer is no, because if you take a look at the undercarriage, you do not have any drive shafts going to the wheels, and you do not have a differential at the front. So what does that tell you? It tells you that this Wildtrak is actually two-wheel drive. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And this means the difference between you and somebody who has a Mark X going for a Rorashio in the village and it rains, the only thing you have above the Mark X is probably ground clearance. Yes. So this is a two-wheel drive Ford Ranger Wildtrak. It was manufactured in 2018. And I know now guys are about to start asking, was there really a two-wheel drive Ford Ranger Wildtrak? Here is the controversial answer, because there are some people who might say, no, this is just a badge. It's not a real Wildtrak. Well, yes, the Wildtrak was sold primarily with four-wheel drive, and it was sold as a trendy four-wheel drive, hardy, robust double cab pickup. However, depending on the market in which it's being sold and also the model year or the year of manufacture, there were some road-oriented Wildtraks. Imagine how disappointing that is. You know, on the Hilux, yes, there are some two-wheel drive variants of the Toyota Hilux double cab, but the good thing is that they are very basic and they are mostly for the Thailand market and a few for the South African market. But again, they are still as pointless as this vehicle right here. And the other thing about this Wildtrak, so in some markets, it's supposed to be cheaper compared to the four-wheel drive counterpart. So where you're going to lose if you buy this Ford Ranger Wildtrak is you're going to lose on four-wheel drive capabilities. But what about the other features of a true Wildtrak? Let's start by talking about what is under the hood of this Ford Ranger Wildtrak. And it's normally my favorite part, but on this one, it's not really as juicy as it used to be. This being a Ford Ranger T6, one of the glorified engines we had on them was a 3.2-liter Ford Duratorq 5-cylinder engine, and it had a very good grunt. In fact, its sound would make you feel, yes, I'm driving a capable off-roader. We also had the lower trims came with a 4-cylinder 2.2-liter engine, which was not really amazing to drive because it was quite lazy and also quite problematic. Now, what we have here is quite different, because towards the end of the production of the T6, we saw the introduction of another series of engines by Ford that were not called the Duratorq engines. They were called the EcoBlue engines. And one of these EcoBlue engines is this engine right here. This is the 2-liter 4-cylinder bi-turbo Ford EcoBlue engine. Yes. So what is this engine known for? It is known for very good fuel economy. Yes, it can push unimaginable fuel economy for dual cab pickups. In fact, that is the unique selling point of the bi-turbo 4-cylinder engine. However, so just explaining about it, it has 4 cylinders and it has 2 turbochargers, one on this side and one on this other side. Well, how is power transmitted to the wheels? Power is transmitted to the wheels through a 10-speed automatic transmission. And that also contributes towards the fuel economy of this Ford Ranger. Well, most of them drive all the 4 wheels, but primarily they drive the rear wheels because the 4-wheel drive is selectable. But now, unfortunately, when you sit in this Ford Ranger, you do not have any selectable 4-wheel patterns. No high range, no low range, no nothing. The only thing you get is a diff lock. So what does that tell you? This vehicle is primarily rear wheel drive. Yes, so in case you get stuck, you're done. but at least they were thoughtful enough to add a diff lock to this vehicle. So it can take you out of some situations, but not all. Imagine if you're buying the four-wheel drive counterpart of this, it comes with a diff lock and also four-wheel drive. So it has like a great added advantage to it. And that's why I'm telling you, this might be a very bad way of spending your 6 million Kenya shillings. But most people might not tell because they don't check these vehicles seriously. Like, you might think this is a four-wheel drive because of the way it looks, but do you ever take time to look at the undercarriage to see whether it has drive shafts under? In fact, I'm very sure that so many people out here are driving two-wheel drive Ford Rangers and two-wheel drive Toyota Hiluxes. Okay, now let's try and look at the glass half full and not half empty. Let me try not to be pessimistic. What are the advantages of having, if there are any, of having a two-wheel drive Ford Ranger Wildtrak? Well, the only one is probably because fuel economy, yeah. And the difference in fuel economy between the two-wheel drive and the four-wheel drive is actually negligible. So again, it's an advantage, but it's pointless. Now, the other thing is that this one has fewer moving parts, so ideally it should be cheaper to maintain because you don't have a lot of things you're maintaining on the front end of this vehicle. Are we together? So yes, what about the power figures? Now, this engine is rated at around over 200 horsepower. But remember, there was a variant of this EcoBlue engine that only had one turbo, and that one was below the 200 horsepower mark. But the bi-turbo is slightly above the 200 horsepower mark. And this one being a two-wheel drive, it has, some decent towing capacity because it can produce about 500 Newton meters of torque. Yes, so that is like the Toyota Hilux territory. And even the Toyota Hilux single cab, most of them can produce 500 Newton meters of torque, and that is quite decent. But again, I still don't understand why you would be buying a Wildtrak that is road oriented. They would have probably lost the badge Wildtrak and called it probably a roadster. But again, you can't call it a roadster because a roadster is a really stylish design for a sports-oriented car like the Mazda MX-5 or the Porsche Roadsters. So probably they would have called it the tarmac truck or something. Anyway, you tell us, what do you think about it? But it's actually quite it's not very exciting to actually drive this car. And one of the reasons is, with a 3.2-liter Ford Duratorq, there was that grunt of might, and you would actually feel the power in that Ford Ranger. Imagine the 3.2 was producing around 170 horsepower thereabout, and the bi-turbo is way more powerful than it and has better fuel economy. However, when it comes to the sound, as enthusiasts, there are sounds that we used to love, that grunt of power. But with the 2 liters, the 2-liter bi-turbo, if you push it too hard, sometimes it can feel like you're pushing your foot against the stomach of a dying cow. So you don't get some very exciting noise coming out of the engine of this car. But with the 3.2 Duratorq, it's heaven on earth. But now the funny thing, with the current generation of the Ford Ranger Wildtrak that features the same engine for the diesel options, the sound is a bit more refined. It's only that it's a bit silent. So I don't know whether it was an exhaust setup thing or something like that, because on the T6, it didn't sound very well. And you see, this is not just any T6. This is a South African spec T6. So maybe that is why it has that kind of sound. Maybe we can try and look at the interior of this Ford Ranger to try and see if there is anything impressive about it. Because yes, it has the ground clearance. In fact, it has the looks of a proper Wildtrak. Even the tires and the undercarriage, even the bed is well sealed, just like a decent Wildtrak. However, the fact that it can only drive the rear wheels really gives it, you know, it slashes the points of this vehicle. But maybe we can find something pleasant about it by looking at what is inside the two cabins of the Ford Ranger tarmac truck. Now, irrespective of this vehicle being two-wheel drive, inside the Ford Ranger tarmac truck, you have a Wildtrak interior. You get electric seats, very good leather with the Wildtrak badging on it. You also get, you know, a decent space. But if you look at the cluster of this vehicle carefully, you might actually get to see a red flag, or to notice a red flag, and that is you don't see anything four-wheel drive on the cluster, and also on the center console. You don't have, even on the dashboard, you don't have any button to select four-wheel drive, and that is red flag number one. But you know what happens with most people when they are buying these cars, and how they end up making this mistake, is that you're out here, you're already excited. It's this orange or brown, whichever color it is. It's a Wildtrak. You're happy, you're excited. So you get carried away and forget the nitty gritties. However, the interior space is actually quite decent, but you have one button. You know, I've told you that there is a Mark X that Carplicity are selling for a very good price. It's a red Mark X, wine red, and it has featured on Auto Connect, by the way. So it's a car that we have driven. It's nice and it looks very classy. So the difference between the person who would buy it from Carplicity, from you know, with that amazing deal, yeah, around 2 million, the difference between you and that person is probably the diff lock and the clearance. So ni kama ununue hiyo Mark X uinue, then utakuwa in the same league as the person who is driving this Ford Ranger Wildtrak. Now, this is the diff lock button right here. And to show you that you have engaged the rear diff lock, once you long press this button, you see the rear diff lock icon on the instrument cluster. And that is how you get to know that the diff lock is actually engaged. And now let's try it out. Engaged versus disengaged. So I demonstrated to you where the diff lock button is on this Ford Ranger tarmac truck, and I'm going to now demonstrate to you how important a diff lock is on this vehicle, bearing in mind that it is two-wheel drive. So I'm going to try go up this small it's not this small patch or something. It's not a hill. Now these are low traction environment or terrain. So if I try to push it without the diff lock, this is what happens. You get a lot of rear wheel spin. So that's what happens. So that means there is no difference between you and a Mark X owner when it comes to, you know, such patches of grass, maybe wet grass, loose gravel, or even loose soil, or even sand. Basically, any low traction surface, you're going to get a lot of wheel spin. But if I engage the diff lock and have the rear wheels locked, one thing about the diff lock is that you cannot use it for tarmac applications or high-speed use. The diff lock is used for low-speed applications, and that is to try and increase the traction. So what happens? It locks the two axles together so that you can get traction from, you know, basically what is happening, you're having one wheel has traction, the other one doesn't. So once you lock the diff, you're able to get the traction that one wheel has and actually get to drive the vehicle. So now I've locked the diff lock and I want you to see the difference. So notice this is the same patch where we were, and that was without the diff lock, and now this is with the diff lock. Yes, so that's the difference that comes in when you engage the diff lock and when you disengage the diff lock. So the difference between you and a Mark X owner when you're driving the Ford Ranger tarmac truck, because this is two-wheel drive, is the diff lock. One thing about the anti-car theft systems, the inbuilt ones on the Ford Ranger T6, is that on this one, you get to select the security mode of the car. And on this, you have two modes. You have the full guard when it comes to the alarm system, and you also have the reduced guard. But on this one, we are on the full guard, making this vehicle very difficult to steal. The Ford Ranger Wildtrak is a respected nameplate because it's capable, it's drenched in tech, and it has quite some good driver assist features. In fact, it's only that this one that we have today has really, spoiled our day because it's two-wheel drive. Two-wheel drive Wildtrak. It's quite annoying. Anyway, part of those things is you get a tire pressure monitoring system that is very well displayed on the instrument cluster. One nostalgic thing about the Ford Ranger T6 Wildtrak, no, I forgot, this is a tarmac truck. It's for the road. Anyway, one of the nostalgic features is that it comes with a good old CD player. So I can just slide it in and listen to some music from a compact disc, a CD. Ile kitu inaitwa CD. Unajua Gen Z ukiwaambia CD watafikiria vitu zingine. Hii CD ni compact disc, and you could also get MP3s and DVDs. Yes, but CD ilikuwa the in thing back then. But then you guys used to. I wish we could have a car that has a floppy disk reader. I'm sure there are people who are watching this review who might not know what a floppy disk is. Mnakumbuka floppy disk ni nini? Anyway, maybe the editor can show them what a floppy disk is. But we get music from a good old CD, compact disc. Other audio sources apart from the good old compact disc are the sources you get AM, kuna wase wanasikizanga AM siku hizi. Also you get FM, a compact disc and Bluetooth connectivity. Yeah, so you can listen to your kind of music from your phone through connecting it to the Bluetooth. The interior of this Ford Ranger T6 Wildtrak, there is a perfect Wildtrak finish, but outside it's a tarmac truck. Anyway, you have a leather finish on the dashboard with the orange stitching and the Wildtrak badging right there, and also the seats come with the Wildtrak badging. However, one thing about the Ford Ranger is that the second row of seats is not as comfortable. It doesn't have a lot of leg room. We have some other double cab pickups such as the L200 Triton that have very good space and leg room for the guys who are sitting at the second row of seats. Also, the rear suspension of this Ford Ranger tarmac truck is quite stiff. So the guys who are sitting behind here get to feel almost every impact that the vehicle encounters on a road. Sawa sawa. So let's wind up and talk about value for money if you're buying this Ford Ranger tarmac truck. Now, I'm sure that there are so many people out here who are driving two-wheel drive double cab such as this Wildtrak without their knowledge. And how can how can you solve that? How can you avoid falling into such a hole? Well, simply that is through pre-purchase inspection that we provide. And also consultation, because I told you, people see an orange double cab and automatically you think that this is a four-wheel drive. No, there are quite a number of two-wheel drive Ford Ranger double cabs out here. But what about, would you buy it? Now, I personally find it pointless to buy a two-wheel drive double cab, not unless it will never go off-road. Well, who are these people who would be comfortable with a two-wheel drive double cab? Number one, these are security firms who patrol estate blocks, or even basically the homes or the institutions that they provide security for are on the tarmac, and they need a double cab because they need to carry 4 guards at the front and also carry those cones. So to VLC player wanawekanga huku nyuma and other bulky things. So number one is security firms. Number two, basically even road patrols, I don't think they would buy a two-wheel drive double cab. Now, the other group of people is people who actually don't know that they are driving a two-wheel drive double cab until they go to the mud. And let me tell you another trick that car salesmen will tell you. They'll tell you, no, this one has full-time four-wheel drive and that is why it does not have a knob. Here by the hiyo story ya jaba. So what you do is you need to check the front if it has drive shafts. And that is why consultancy and pre-purchase inspection is often very, very, very important. So, and you know, the two-wheel drive double cabs are supposed to be way cheaper than their four-wheel drive counterparts. So the next time you're buying one, please consult and please let's have a pre-purchase inspection so that we make sure you're not buying a two-wheel drive double cab. Or kama wewe ni mtu unajua, kindly inspect the undercarriage of the double cab before buying it. Are we together up to that point? Well, we have some double cabs that are four-wheel drive but don't have the selector and they don't have the high and low range. Yes, we have like the first generation of the Amarok did not have low range, I guess, but it had a very powerful motor. But that is just one exception. But one thing a four-wheel drive vehicle will always have is drive shafts at the front. That is the for four-wheel drive double cab pickups. So for real, if you are buying a double cab pickup, please let it be four-wheel drive, not unless you have zero need for four-wheel drive capabilities. Imagine, and you know, there are also two-wheel drive Fortuners. There are also two-wheel drive for Devarests. There are also two-wheel drive, which is the other one? Think, yeah, the ones I've seen two-wheel drive are the Everest. There are some variants that are two-wheel drive, and also another one is the Fortuner. There are some variants that are two-wheel drive. So always be very careful before you purchase one. And I'm going to say, without fear of contradiction, it is actually pointless to buy a two-wheel drive double cab pickup, especially if you are buying such a serious badge as the Wildtrak. Lakini the manufacturers hawakututengenezea mbuzi hizi gari, walitengenezea binadamu. So if at all you know you want a practical vehicle that is a pickup and you do not need four-wheel drive capabilities, well, you can buy this one. But for me, and I think 90% others, it might not make enough, might not make sense. So if instead of buying a two-wheel drive double cab pickup, why don't you buy a single cab pickup or the one that has the king cab? Or even if you have to buy one that is two, just buy a crossover SUV that is two-wheel drive. Anyway, I hope this has been an insightful episode. Remember, Carplicity have a crazy clearance sale and they are selling cars for very good prices. Usitembee kama mifugo ukienda ushago. Manze, imagine selling a Makex for about 2 million Kenya shillings. Slightly above 2 million Kenya shillings. Slightly. Yes, na ukiongelesha niko sure anaweza kuuzia hiyo gari na hiyo bei nimesema. So, and I told you as AutoConnect, if you're buying a car from Carplicity this festive season, a car that you have seen on AutoConnect, we are going to give you a free pre-purchase inspection, a free consultation. Tuko pamoja hadi hapo. So all you have to do is call David and tell him to call us, or you can call us through our number that is in the description below. What do you think about two-wheel drive double cabs? Tell us in the comments. Maybe kuna wase wanazipenda. Anyway, I'm not one of those. Over and out. See you next week, guys.